here. I want to talk about racial issues, right? Wherever you live in America, you're affected in some form or fashion by racial issues because you have access to the idiot box, social media, and we're seeing more racial tension in this country over the last couple of decades. You know, and the race thing is, you got white, black, which you would call Hispanic, Asian. And how do we weave through these racial issues as people, right? I think there's some extremes. You have people that are proud of their race, but what it does is it causes them to hate others. Then you have people that are ashamed of their race, or people that deny there is such a thing altogether as race. And I think those things, those attitudes and mentalities further aggravate the situation, the issue. I think it's very important to be in tune with your culture, your ethnicity, your ancestry, your lineage, because that's the one thing that's real. Right? That's the one thing that's real in life. That's who you are. The key is to be proud of those things without hating others. Right? The key is not to be ashamed of those things, because what the media is going to do, what we have is an agenda by the media to get people to hate who they are because of maybe things done in the past. And what you don't want is to be guilt shamed based on who you are. Right?
In 1,000 feet,
See,
turn right onto
my
the California
mentality
57 South ramp
it's
to
good to
Santa
be
Ana.
proud of your heritage, your culture, your ethnos, to not make apologies for it because of whatever. And to love your people. There's nothing wrong with that. It's God-given. It's normal, right? It's natural instinct.
Turn right onto the California
The key
57 South
is
ramp.
to still be able to treat others well. Because we live in a society that they're trying to homogenize us to not see ethnicity and race, when those are very real things. So they're trying to homogenize society, and that's being done through materialism, capitalism. They want people to identify more with their material possessions, how far up the corporate ladder they've gone. Salute, big homie, salute, man, good to see you. They want you to identify with those things and remove the cultural instincts you have, right? Now, when we talk about racial issues, yeah, man,
In 1,000
trying
feet,
to get
merge
on
onto
here more
California
for sure.
57 South.
Trying to get on here more for sure. Now, as a Christian, your salvation in Christ doesn't matter who you are in terms of ethnicity, race, but the Bible says that He's made a kingdom of all tribes, tongues, nations, and peoples. So Jesus' kingdom is of all the ethnos, the nations, the peoples, the different tongues, tribes. And I think it's important that we keep these ethnic cultures alive. Let's not pretend they don't exist and there's differences. That's
Continue
the
for 6
mistake that the
miles.
modern world makes. But the more people appreciate their culture, the more they're going to be true to themselves, be able to love others of a different culture, and see the beauty that there is different cultures, there is different ethnos. But what I see a lot of times, what people fall into the trap of, because you're proud of your culture, you got to hate others. That's what I notice a lot. And that's a trap. because we all meet people of different races, cultures, ethnicities that we vibe with, that we get along with. We see are virtuous people. And I tend to look at the things of ethnic culture in terms of a positive way. You know, my culture, my background is mixed Celtic, Latino, Hispanic. You know, my family from the Basque Country and Spain and the Northwest Europe. And I got some Native American in me. So, in reading about history, I've learned how these things have come about. What is a Hispanic? What is a Latino? Well, when you go back and read history, there was the Latini tribes, the Latino tribes. The Latino tribes were the ones who, along with the Etruscans, formed the Roman Republic. They were the Latinos. You know, our language of Spanish comes from the Latin language. French, Portuguese comes from Latin. The name Hispanic comes from Spain, which was given, that name was given by the Romans when they conquered the Iberian Peninsula, and they gave that part of the Iberian Peninsula the name Hispania, which they're not sure what that means, but they think it may mean beautiful flower, right? So I like to go into the roots of things, what they mean, right? And throughout history, people have mixed. It's very natural to mix. And so, like in Latin America, you have people that are of all different races, right? You have, you know, you're very European, white, Hispanics, quote unquote. You'll have mestizos, 50-50, indigenous, 50-50 Spanish. And you have castizos, 75% Spanish, European, and 25% indigenous, and everything in between. So, and in my study of history, even when you look at the white race, for example, there were basically two different types of white ethnicities. There was the Nordics, which we know today is kind of like people that have that Germanic look, Nordic look, and then you had the Mediterraneans, which is where I would fit in, kind of more of that with the classical Mediterranean look of maybe Greek and Roman, right? And then when they've dug up, like, I guess bodies or whatever, skeletons of Romans, the predominant look that these people who dug up the Romans and did testing on them, they say is in Spain, right? So when you think of a Roman, you're likely, you think of a Spaniard, right? In this modern world, they're trying to erase the difference of ethnicities and cultures. They want us to have one unified, homogeneous, very superficial and plastic culture, materialism. In America has been the big the capitalist experiment to erase the ethnos, right? To erase the ethnos, to have people remove distinctions and differences as if it's bad to have those. And they want you to replace that with money, possessions, being a slave to the corporate world. Just about everything we have in America, culture-wise, is pretty superficial, right? It's pretty superficial. And one of the cool things I learned in history about the Latin tribes, and I proudly call myself a Hispanic, Latino, Celtic mix, whatever. Let's say Latin. is the Latin tribes and the Etruscans were different peoples, but they mixed basically, so they were one and the same pretty much. But there was a point where the Etruscans gained much of the power in the Roman Republic, and the Latini tribes or Latino tribes all united and decided they were going to take back the Roman Republic from the Etruscans. And they formed something called the Latin League. And this is where you get the concept of fascism from. Fascism simply means a bundle. And so the symbol of the fasci, the symbol of fascism is the fasci. You get a bundle of sticks wrapped together as one, unity. So the Latin tribes organized, formed the Latin League, and took back the Roman Republic from the Etruscans. And eventually Rome became an empire, supplanted the Grecian Empire as the predominant Mediterranean and really, I guess you would say, Southern European, North African, Asia Minor, and even probably somewhat Central European became the predominant power. I think the more in tune you are with your culture, the more you'll be respectful of other people's cultures. The problem is much
in
of
a
what
quarter
you
mile,
see
use the middle lane to stay on California 57
these
South.
identity groups, whatever supremacist group it is, because it's, whether it's from
use the middle lane to stay on
quote-unquote
California
Hispanic point of
57
view,
South. Then use the middle lane to take exit 1A.
white, black. These supremacist groups are really just a cartoon version of what it means to be proud of your culture.
Use the middle lane to take exit 1A.
Right? They're a cartoon version of it. So then what happens is, to be proud of your culture gets
Continue for
tainted
1 mile.
by those who make it a cartoon and a hateful thing. And one of the psychologies that they use against people of being proud of their culture is they'll posit tribal customs of peoples, whether it's Asia, Africa, the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and even in the past, white people, they would call them they would call them barbarians, is they mock those customs. Why?
Right.
Because
follow signs for Main
they
Street,
want to
Broadway.
erase cultures. That's what people don't get about globalism. The globalism is simply an attempt to Judaize the world, make everybody forget about their culture, and identify with
Keep
being
right.
a goyim, kind of identify with being a Judaic, a Hebrew, right? Why do you think the 3 Abrahamic religions are worldwide and the most popular? Because, and listen, I'm a Christian, right? But I'm not a Judeo-Christian. And so the attempt by these religions is to
Continue
erase
on North Broadway for
culture
1.5 miles.
and have you identify with being a Judaic. It's globalism. They want sameness. They want homogenous culture and remove all distinctions, nationalities, national borders, sovereign nations, and they want sameness, right? For everybody. They want sameness. All this stuff that people get into, the way they dress, Nike, Adidas, and being into like this mainstream fashion, it's all an attempt to water you down into being a consumer of the merchant class. See, we're now living in the era of the merchant class. In the modern day, in the modern world, modernity, the things that are beautiful are hated. Art, tribal customs, right? And I'm not saying we gotta LARP and dress the part. You still gotta be who you are. We live in this age now. But I really encourage people to be proud of their culture, be proud of their ethnicity. Because I don't trust anybody who's ashamed of who they are, right? The thing is, you don't want to go to the extremes and start not liking other people because they're different than you. See, this world is a cascade of different colors, shapes, sizes. And there's an agenda right now by the globalists, the global parasites, that want to erase all that. Because they want you to be a slave, a Shabbos Goy of their Tikkun Olam. It's all an agenda. Why do you think you have all these groups now that claim to be the real Israelites? And then to them, once they're the true Israelites, everybody is the devil or the devil's children. Well, that just shows me those people that do believe that are brainwashed. They've denied who they are and claim to be one of the 12 tribes of Israel. They've bought into the propaganda of the Judeo worldview and are now denying who they really are to try to be someone they're not. And to demonize other people that are not those chosen people. See, I reject the concept of a chosen people. That is the biggest mind screw in the world. And that's why you see this desperation by people to try to claim to be the Hebrews of the Bible. It's a joke. The Israelites don't exist anymore. That's just a fact. They don't exist. And who cares? Who cares if they do? Like, I don't want to be one of them. I'm whom I am. But that's the agenda that's weaving its way parasitically throughout the world. That's why we're having our wars in Palestine, the genocide of the Palestinians. That's why we're having Ukraine, Russia. The Ukrainians are getting fed to the slaughter. Why? For the global elites. They don't like Russia because Russia is standing against globalism. Russia, after being under the terror reign of the Bolshevik communists, who were the chosen people, the so-called chosen people, Russia finally broke out.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto West 4th Street.
Of Bolshevik communism, and now has reclaimed their Christian tradition and being proud of their Russian ethnicity. And that's why you see what you see in Ukraine, Russia. Because they broke free from the global terror of the parasitic class, the so-called chosen people.
At the light, turn right onto West 4th Street, then your destination will be on the left.
See, as a Christian, I believe in, from a Catholic worldview, that we are to preserve the ethnos. We're to preserve racial distinctions and ethnic distinctions because it's beautiful. It doesn't mean you can't mix. I'm mixed. But what I'm saying is, let's not try to be something we're
Your
not.
destination is
Let's
on the
not
left.
buy the lie that we're all the same and all ethnics are the same. No, there's differences and they're beautiful. They're beautiful, man. And don't buy into the propaganda of people wanting you to be ashamed of who you are because of the color of your skin, because of what happened in the past. Reject that wholesale. I reject guilt trips. I reject guilt trips full stop, right? But anyways, gotta go. Gonna make $1 today. Salute.